Betrayal. She chose a wild party over our anniversary dinner, not knowing I had a diamond ring in my pocket and our future planned out. The relationship advice experts never tell you how to handle when the woman you love prioritizes everyone else above you. I ghosted her completely and rebuilt my life 800 miles away. But infidelity has a way of following you. 2 years later, she's standing on my doorstep in tears, begging for another chance. What she doesn't know is that I've discovered her innocent party was actually a secret meetup with her ex. And as she pleads for forgiveness, the woman who truly deserves my trust is walking up the stairs behind her. My name is Neil Blair. I'm 32, and this is the story of how I learned the hard way that love isn't always enough, especially when it's one-sided. It's about infidelity, heartbreak, and ultimately, finding the strength to walk away from someone who took me for granted. I've always been the dependable type. The guy friends call when they need a shoulder to cry on or help moving a couch. Steady. Reliable. Maybe that's why Zoe Thompson and I seemed like such a good match at first. She was vibrant, spontaneous, full of life. Everything I wasn't. Her laughter could light up any room. And when she smiled at me, it felt like I was the most important person in her world. We complemented each other, or at least that's what I told myself. I provided stability, while she brought excitement to my otherwise predictable life. I even turned down a promotion that would have required relocating to the West Coast because I couldn't imagine being away from her. We've been together for almost 2 years, and, in my mind, we were building towards something permanent. I spent months planning the perfect proposal. I wanted it to be special, meaningful, something worthy of our relationship. I found the perfect ring, not too flashy but elegant, just like her. I made reservations at Bellini's, this upscale Italian place where we had our first date. The plan was to propose on the night of our anniversary, which also happened to be her birthday. Talk about perfect timing, right? The week leading up to the big day, I was a bundle of nerves. I rehearsed my speech countless times, imagining how her eyes would light up, how she might cry, happy tears, of course, and how our lives would officially start to merge into one. I even called her best friend, Melissa, to make sure I was on the right track. Melissa seemed genuinely excited, assuring me that Zoe would be thrilled. She's been dropping hints about marriage for months now, Melissa said, which only boosted my confidence. The morning of our anniversary, I sent Zoe a bouquet of her favorite flowers, lilies, not roses, with a note reminding her about her dinner reservation. She replied with a string of heart emojis, and can't wait to see you tonight. I left work early to pick up the ring from the jeweler's and get ready. Everything was set. I even practiced getting down on one knee in front of my bedroom mirror, feeling like an idiot but too excited to care. And then, just as I was about to head out the door, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Zoe. Something came up. Veronica just got a promotion and is throwing a last-minute celebration at the loft. Rain check on dinner? I promise I'll make it up to you. I stared at my phone, reading and rereading those words, feeling the weight of the ring box in my pocket grow heavier with each passing second. This wasn't just any dinner she was bailing on. This was our anniversary, her birthday, and what was supposed to be the night that changed our lives forever. But she didn't know that. And now, I wasn't sure she ever would. I called Zoe immediately after getting her text, hoping there was some misunderstanding. The phone rang 3 times before she picked up, club music already pulsing in the background. "Neil, can you hear me?" she shouted over the noise. "Yeah," I reply, my voice tight. "Zoe, it's our anniversary. And your birthday. I made special reservations weeks ago." She sighed, and I could practically see her rolling her eyes. "I know what day it is, but this is important for Veronica. She's been after this promotion for ages. More important than our anniversary." The ring box felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. "Don't be so dramatic," she said dismissively. "It's just dinner. We could do it tomorrow. Or this weekend. The restaurant isn't going anywhere." But this wasn't just about dinner. This was about our future, about the commitment I was ready to make, about the fact that when faced with a choice between a party and a milestone in our relationship, she chose the party without a second thought. "Fine," I said finally, my voice hollow. "Have fun at the party." I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall. The relationship advice books always talked about communication being key, but how do you communicate with someone who doesn't even see the problem? I took out the ring box and opened it, looking at the diamond that caught the light from my bedside lamp. The betrayal I felt wasn't about infidelity in the physical sense, but about the emotional affair she was having with her lifestyle, one that clearly didn't include me as a priority. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying our conversation, wondering if I was overreacting. Maybe this wasn't a big deal. Maybe I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But deep down, I knew this was just the latest in a pattern of behavior that showed where I ranked in her life. I waited for her to call or text, to check in, to say she was sorry for missing our special night. My phone remained silent. Around 2 a.m., I checked Instagram against my better judgment. There was Zoe, tagged in photos from the loft, drink in hand, arms around Veronica, beaming at the camera without a care in the world. No sign she was thinking about me or what she'd missed. The caption on one photo read, "Best night ever. Who needs a quiet dinner when you can celebrate with your real friends? Hashtag no regrets." That was the moment something inside me broke. This wasn't a relationship crisis that could be fixed with a heart-to-heart. This was a fundamental misalignment of values. Morning came, and still no message from Zoe. I dragged myself out of bed, eyes puffy from lack of sleep, and made coffee on autopilot. I kept checking my phone, hoping to see her name on the screen, hoping she'd realize what she'd done. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. If she couldn't be bothered to reach out after what happened, what did that say about us? About her respect for me and our relationship? I placed the ring box on my dresser, next to the framed photo of us from our first vacation together. That happy couple seemed like strangers now. By late afternoon, my phone finally lit up with Zoe's name. Not a call, just a text. "Sorry about last night. Got carried away celebrating. Make it up to you tonight. Dinner at 7. No mention of our anniversary. No acknowledgement that she'd hurt me. Just a casual sorry, like she'd forgotten to pick up milk from the store. The relationship advice I'd always given friends suddenly rang hollow in my own ears. Communication is key. How could I communicate with someone who didn't even recognize there was a problem? I stared at her message for nearly an hour, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. If she cared, really cared, wouldn't she have called? Wouldn't she have shown up at my door with a genuine apology? That's when I realized this wasn't a one-time thing or a simple mistake. This was who she was, and I deserved better. I put my phone down without responding and opened my laptop instead. First, I went to Instagram and unfollowed her. Then Facebook, unfriended. Twitter, Snapchat, even LinkedIn, all connections severed. With each click, I felt a strange mixture of pain and liberation. Next, I went through my photo gallery. 2 years of memories, vacations, date nights, silly selfies, all deleted. I kept just one photo, storing it in a hidden folder. Not because I couldn't let go, but as a reminder of the lesson I'd learned. I picked up my phone again and blocked her number. No explanation, no dramatic goodbye text. She chose a party over me, so I ghosted her completely. Clean break. As I deleted the last traces of Zoe from my life, I remembered all the opportunities I passed up for her. The job offer in Seattle with the tech startup. The chance to travel through Europe with my college roommate. The photography workshop in Yellowstone I'd always wanted to attend. She hadn't just taken my time and emotional energy. She'd taken possibilities. She'd taken futures that could have been mine, but no more. I pulled out my laptop again and searched for available apartments in Seattle. The startup had reached out just 3 months ago, wondering if I'd reconsidered. At the time, I politely declined, still believing my future was with Zoe. Now, I compose a new email. If the position is still available, I'd like to discuss the opportunity. Then I call my parents. They'd never been Zoe's biggest fans, though they'd kept their opinions mostly to themselves. When I told them what happened and that I was considering Seattle, my mom's voice softened. "Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones, honey," she said. My dad was more direct. "You deserve someone who shows up for you, son. No excuses." By evening, my phone exploded with notifications from Zoe. Texts, voicemails, even emails when she realized I'd blocked her number. I ignored them all. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. The tech startup in Seattle responded enthusiastically to my email, setting up a video interview for the following week. I aced it, partly because I was qualified, partly because I had nothing to lose anymore. 2 days later, they offered me the position with a salary that made my current one look like pocket change. "When can you start?" the HR director asked. "How about 2 weeks?" I replied, surprising even myself with my eagerness to leave my old life behind. That night, I called my best friend, Jason, and told him everything. About the proposal that never happened, about Zoe's betrayal, about my decision to move across the country. Damn, man, that's rough, he said. But honestly, this might be the best thing that could have happened to you. That relationship was holding you back. He wasn't wrong. The signs of trouble had been there long before our anniversary. Zoe consistently prioritizing her social life, making plans without consulting me, treating my time as less valuable than hers. Classic warning signs of a failing relationship that I'd willfully ignored. I spent the weekend packing up my apartment, deciding what to take and what to leave behind. My parents drove up to help, bringing empty boxes and supportive words. Your father and I are proud of you, my mom said, carefully wrapping a coffee mug in newspaper. It takes courage to start over. Dad was more practical. I've got a buddy in Seattle, real estate agent. He'll help you find a decent place. I gave notice at my job, sold my furniture, and donated clothes I no longer needed. With each item that left my possession, I felt lighter. The betrayal still stung, but it was becoming part of my past, not my present. Zoe's attempts to contact me had grown increasingly desperate. Texts from unknown numbers. Emails with subject lines like "Please read" and "We need TO talk." Even a handwritten letter slipped under my door. I made a mistake. Call me. I threw it away without reading past the first line. The relationship advice books never mentioned how empowering it could be to choose yourself after someone else had clearly chosen everything but you. The night before my flight to Seattle, Jason insisted on throwing me a going-away party. Nothing fancy, just a few close friends at his place, good beer, and better conversation. To new beginnings, he toasted, raising his bottle, and to recognizing your worth, added his girlfriend, Sarah, who'd never been Zoe's biggest fan. I clinked my bottle against theirs, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. The next morning, I locked my apartment for the last time and handed the keys to my landlord. My car was already sold. My remaining possessions fit into 2 suitcases and a carry-on. As the plane took off, I watched my city grow smaller through the window. Somewhere down, there was Zoe, the woman I'd once thought I'd marry. Now, she was just someone I used to know. A chapter closed, a lesson learned. Seattle awaited, and with it, the chance to rewrite my story on my own terms. Seattle welcomed me with its signature gray skies and constant drizzle, weather that perfectly matched my mood. The tech startup, Meridian Solutions, put me up in a corporate apartment for the first month while I got my bearings. It was sparse but functional, much like my new life. My first day, the CEO herself gave me a tour. "We're stoked to have you on the team," she said, leading me through the open concept office with its exposed brick walls and standing desks. "Your portfolio blew us away." I threw myself into work like a man possessed. First one in, last one out. Weekends became just another opportunity to code, debug, and problem solve. My colleagues invited me for happy hours and weekend hikes, but I declined every time. I wasn't there to make friends or find a rebound after my failed relationship. I was there to bury myself in work until the ache of betrayal subsided. "Dude, you're killing it, but you gotta come up for air sometime," my team lead, Marcus, said after I'd been there about 3 weeks. "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, you know?" I just shrugged. I've had a lot to prove. What I didn't tell him was that every moment not working was a moment my mind might wander back to Zoe. To the ring still sitting in my dresser drawer. To what might have been if she hadn't chosen that damn party over our future. When my first paycheck hit my account, I felt a flush of satisfaction. This was more money than I'd ever made, and I was determined to be smart about it. Half went into savings, a quarter into an investment account I'd opened, and the rest toward finding a more permanent place to live. I found a small but modern apartment in Capitol Hill with a view of downtown. It cost a fortune, but I could afford it now. Without Zoe's expensive taste to accommodate, the weekend brunches, the designer clothes, the spontaneous trips that somehow always ended up on my credit card, I actually had money to spare. The emptiness of my new place didn't bother me. In fact, I preferred it. Clean lines, minimal furniture, no clutter, physical or emotional. Just like my new life. 6 weeks in, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost declined it, assuming it was Zoe, trying yet another way to reach me. Instead, it was a headhunter. I heard through the grapevine that you're doing impressive things at Meridian, she said. Would you be open to some freelance work on the side? Double your hourly rate, remote, flexible hours. I said yes without hesitation. More work meant less time to think, less time to remember, less time to wonder if walking away had been the right call, even though deep down I knew it had been. You're a machine, Marcus commented when he caught me coding during lunch again. But just remember, even machines break down without maintenance. I nodded but kept typing. The relationship advice I now lived by was simple. The best way to get over someone is to be too busy to remember them. 6 months into my Seattle life, I barely recognized myself. And that was a good thing. The guy who had been ready to put a ring on Zoe's finger was long gone, replaced by someone more focused, more disciplined, and considerably wealthier. Between my salary at Meridian and my freelance gigs, money was piling up faster than I could spend it. I started educating myself on financial independence. Investment books, podcasts about wealth building, online courses about the stock market. Knowledge became my new obsession. Ever think about buying property? Marcus asked one day, over the lunch, I'd finally agreed to join him for. Seattle's market is hot, but a guy with your income could make it work. The idea took root. A month later, I closed on a small condo with a view of Puget Sound. My first real investment. Look at you, building an empire while the rest of us are blowing our paychecks at the bar. Marcus joked when I showed him pictures. The betrayal that had once consumed my thoughts was fading, becoming just another life lesson in my rearview mirror. I still thought about Zoe occasionally, but the sharp pain had dulled to a vague curiosity about what she might be up to. I never checked, though. Some doors were better left closed. My parents visited that spring, clearly relieved to see me thriving. "You've got that spark back in your eyes," Mom said, hugging me tightly at the airport. I was worried we'd lost it forever. Dad was more interested in my financial progress, nodding approvingly as I walked him through my investment portfolio. "Smart moves," he said. "You're setting yourself up right." During their visit, I showed them around my Seattle life, my sleek condo, my hip neighborhood, my prestigious workplace. I could see them processing how much things had changed, how far I'd come from the devastated guy who'd fled town with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. The night before they left, Mom pulled me aside while Dad was browsing a bookstore. "Have you thought about dating again?" she asked cautiously. "There must be lovely women in Seattle." I hadn't, honestly. The thought of putting myself back into a position where someone could choose a party over me, could prioritize anything over our relationship, it still made my stomach clench. "I'm focusing on myself right now," I said, the standard response of anyone recovering from relationship trauma. She didn't push, but her eyes held a gentle reminder that healing eventually meant opening up again, not just building financial walls to replace the emotional ones. After they left, I stood on my balcony, watching ferries cross the sound as the sun set. For the first time in months, I let myself really feel everything: the loss, the growth, the unexpected freedom of being entirely self-reliant. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize, but somehow knew immediately. "Zoe. Again. I saw your parents in town. They look happy. Are you?" I deleted it without responding. My happiness was no longer her business. Some questions don't deserve answers, especially from someone who couldn't be bothered to show up when it mattered most. 2 years flew by. Seattle had become home. Meridian had promoted me twice, and my investment portfolio was something my younger self could only have dreamed about. The pain of betrayal had faded to a distant memory, like a scar you only notice when the weather changes. One Saturday morning, I headed to Pike Place Market to pick up fresh ingredients for dinner. I'd recently started cooking as a way to unwind, something Zoe would have found hilarious, given that I'd once burned water trying to boil pasta. I was examining avocados at a produce stand when I heard a familiar voice. Neil Blair." I turned to find Melissa, Zoe's old best friend, staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. She looked exactly the same: blonde bob, designer sunglasses, perpetually surprised expression. "Melissa, wow, what are you doing in Seattle?" I managed, fighting the urge to walk away. "Conference," she said, stepping closer. "I can't believe it's you. You just disappeared. No one knew where you went." That was the point, I thought but didn't say. "Yeah, well, new job, new city. You know how it goes." I kept my tone neutral, already planning my exit strategy. Zoe was devastated. She continued, either missing or ignoring my discomfort. She tried everything to find you. I nearly laughed. Really? Because she had no problem choosing a party over our anniversary dinner. The dinner where I was going to propose. The words came out sharper than intended. 2 years of suppressed anger, suddenly finding its release. Melissa's eyes widened. Wait, you were going to propose that night? She never mentioned. Of course she didn't, I interrupted. Because to mention it would mean admitting she screwed up royally. Easier to play the victim, right? Melissa at least had the grace to look embarrassed. Listen, there's something you should know about that night. About Veronica's promotion party. My stomach tightened. I'm not interested in rehashing ancient history. It's not what you think, she insisted. Veronica admitted later that there was no promotion. The whole thing was a setup because a guy Zoe had briefly dated before he was back in town and wanted to reconnect. She was curious, that's all. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Not just a party, then. A meetup with an ex. The betrayal was even deeper than I'd thought. So, she was planning to cheat on me the night I was planning to propose, I said flatly. Thanks for the clarification. Really clears things up. No, I don't think. Melissa fumbled. It doesn't matter anymore. I cut her off. Ancient history, like I said. I've moved on. She should too. Before she could respond, my phone rang. Mark is calling about our planned hiking trip the next day. I answered gratefully, using it as an excuse to end the conversation. I need to take this. Good seeing you, Melissa. I walked away without waiting for her response, my carefully constructed peace momentarily shaken by this ghost from my past. The encounter with Melissa left me shaken. Learning that Zoe's betrayal ran even deeper than I'd thought reopened wounds I believed were healed. That night, I couldn't sleep, replaying our relationship in my mind with this new information, wondering what else I might have missed. The next morning, bleary-eyed but determined to shake off the funk, I met Marcus for our planned hike. You look like hell, he observed as I climbed into his Jeep. Ran into someone from my old life yesterday, I admitted. Stirred up some stuff. Marcus nodded sagely. The ghost of relationship past. Always a kick in the teeth. Once we hit the trail, the crisp mountain air and physical exertion worked their magic. By the time we reached the summit, overlooking the sound and the distant Olympic range, my head felt clearer. Hey, I meant to ask, Marcus said as we took a water break. My sister's in town next weekend. She just moved here from Phoenix. Would you mind showing her around a bit? She doesn't know anyone yet, and I've got that conference in Portland. I don't know, man. I'm not really the tour guide type. She's cool, I promise. Smart as hell, works in biotech, and not looking for anything serious before you start with the trust issues excuses. I laughed despite myself. Fine. One afternoon. But you owe me. The following Saturday, I met Abigail Vargas at a coffee shop downtown. Even if she hadn't been wearing the red scarf Marcus had described, I would have spotted her immediately. She had his same easy smile and confident posture, though she was far more attractive than her brother had any right to be. Neil, right? She said, extending her hand. Thanks for agreeing to this. Marcus speaks highly of you. All eyes, I replied with a small smile. But I'll try to live up to the hype. What was supposed to be a quick coffee and walking tour turned into an entire day. We explored Pike Place, took the ferry to Bainbridge Island, and ended up at a hole-in-the-wall sushi place for dinner. Conversation flowed effortlessly. Not once did I find myself mentally calculating an exit strategy, which had become my norm on the few dates I'd attempted since moving to Seattle. Abigail was different from Zoe in every way that mattered. Where Zoe had been demanding, Abigail was self-sufficient. Where Zoe sought constant validation, Abigail was secure in herself. And when I mentioned having to be at work early Monday for a project deadline, she didn't pout or try to convince me to change my plans. She simply asked if I wanted to grab breakfast beforehand. As I walked her to her apartment that evening, she turned to me with a directness I found refreshing. I had a great time today, and I'd like to see you again. But Marcus mentioned some past relationship trauma, so I want to be clear. I'm not looking to rush in anything serious either. Just seeing where things go. For the first time in 2 years, the thought of seeing where things go with someone didn't fill me with dread. I'd like that, I said honestly. 6 months into dating Abigail, life had found a comfortable rhythm. We spent weekends exploring Seattle, weeknights working on our respective projects, and just enough time together to feel connected without suffocating each other. For the first time since Zoe, I'd let someone pass my walls. Not all the way in, but close enough to matter. You're different lately. Mark has commented one day at work. Less robot, more human. I rolled my eyes but couldn't deny it. Abigail had brought something back to life in me, something I thought had died the night Zoe chose a party over our future. That Sunday afternoon, Abigail was coming over with groceries. She'd been threatening to teach me to make authentic paella for weeks. I was tidying up my apartment when the doorbell rang, 15 minutes earlier than expected. "Did you forget your key again?" I called out, smiling as I crossed to the door. Abigail had her own key now, a practical decision since she often worked late at her lab and sometimes crashed at my place afterward. But when I opened the door, it wasn't Abigail standing there. It was Zoe. 2 years had changed her. The confident, vibrant woman I remembered looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by a simple sweater and jeans, her usually perfect makeup minimal. "Neil," she breathed, like she couldn't believe I was real. "I finally found you." I stood frozen, unable to process the ghost from my past materializing on my doorstep. "How did you?" I managed finally. "Melissa," she said quickly. "She told me she saw you. It took months to track down your address. Can I come in? Please?" "No," I replied automatically. "What are you doing here, Zoe?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I needed to see you. To explain. To apologize." "There's nothing to explain. You chose a party over me. I ghosted you. 2 years later you're begging on my doorstep. Not much gray area there." "It wasn't just a party," she said desperately. "I was scared, okay? Melissa told me you were acting weird, buying new clothes, making special reservations. I figured you were going to propose, and I panicked. So you went to meet your ex instead," I said flatly. She flinched. "I made a horrible mistake. I've spent 2 years regretting it. Nothing in my life has gone right since you left. I lost my job, had to move back in with my parents for a while. I've been in therapy, working on myself, trying to understand why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. Part of me, a small, vindictive part, was satisfied hearing about her struggles. But mostly I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing. Just a mild discomfort of dealing with an unwelcome solicitor. "I'm sorry things have been tough," I said, not unkindly. "But that chapter of my life is closed. Please," she begged, tears flowing freely now. "Just give me a chance to." The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupted her plea. Abigail appeared, grocery bags in hand, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Hey, I'm early." The store wasn't as crowded as. She stopped, noticing Zoe. "Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you had company." The three of us stood frozen in a tableau of past and present, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Zoe's tears had stopped abruptly, her eyes now fixed on Abigail with undisguised recognition of what she represented. I stepped toward Abigail, taking the grocery bags from her hands. "Abigail, this is Zoe, an old acquaintance from back home." Zoe was just leaving. The deliberate downgrade from ex-girlfriend to acquaintance wasn't lost on anyone. Abigail smiled politely, extending her hand. "Nice to meet you." Zoe ignored the gesture, turning back to me. "Neil, please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Abigail touched my arm lightly. "I can come back later if you need to talk." That simple touch, that considered offer, it highlighted everything Zoe wasn't and had never been. Someone who put my needs first. Someone who didn't demand but offered. Someone worthy of trust. "No need," I said, meeting Abigail's eyes before facing Zoe again. "There's nothing to discuss. You can't just pretend we never happened." Zoe's voice rose, desperation cracking through her composed facade. 2 years together, and you won't even give me 5 minutes? I felt a surprising calm wash over me. "You made your choice 2 years ago. I've made mine since then." Without waiting for her response, I stepped back into my apartment, gently pulling Abigail with me, and closed the door. Through the wood, I could hear Zoe's muffled protests, but they faded as she realized I wasn't going to open the door again. Abigail set down her purse on the counter. "So, that was the infamous Zoe." I nodded, surprised at how steady my hands were as I unpacked the groceries. "Sorry about that." "Don't be. We all have exes." She studied my face carefully. "Are you okay?" I considered the question honestly. Was I okay? Seeing Zoe had stirred up memories, but not feelings. No regret. No longing. Not even anger anymore. Yeah, I said, realizing it was true. I really am. Abigail smiled, reaching for the paella rice. Good. Because this recipe takes 2 hours, and I need you focused. As we cooked together in my kitchen, laughing when I nearly burned the sofrito, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal that had once defined me now seemed like a distant chapter in someone else's story. Later that night, as Abigail slept beside me, I took out my phone and found the hidden folder where I'd kept that single photo of Zoe and me. I looked at it one last time, then deleted it permanently. No reminders needed anymore. No lessons left to learn. The next morning, over coffee on my balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline, Abigail mentioned casually, I got offered a research position in Boston. 3-year contract, starting in June. My old self would have panicked at this potential loss. My new self asked, what are you thinking about it? She shrugged. It's a great opportunity, but I like what I built here. With my work. With you. She looked at me directly. Would you have any thoughts about that? I said slowly, that Meridian has an office in Boston, and that I've been due for a change of scenery. Her smile was worth every painful step of the journey that had led me to this moment.